So we have been discussing about the multi-degree freedom system. How do we deal with, we have discussed about the single degree freedom system and what do we do with the design spectrum or response spectrum that we compute, how it is to be used for our calculating the maximum forces that we need to design for in the system. And but single degree freedom system is a very idealistic, idealized thing. Most of the systems that we deal with are much more complex than just the single story warehouse kind of a structure. So how do you deal with single degree freedom system or multi degree freedom system? A typical example that we discussed was just one level higher in complexity is the 2 degree of freedom system with 2-storied building and with usual assumptions about the considering the order of magnitude of the various displacements, various deformation components. We find that this lateral deformation U1 and U2 of the two masses is by far the most important compared to the other two deformations. So for all practical purposes we can ignore the other two components of deformation and restrict our discussion only for these lateral deformations under lateral loads and compute the stress resultants in structural elements that will need to be added to the stress resultants that we compute for other gravity load calculations using appropriate load combination, using weighted sum, using appropriate load factors. And then we need to design sections for the total loading, combined loading, combined effects including these lateral loads and the gravity load effects. So this is not to say that when I say girders are infinitely rigid and that is why you are getting this lateral deformation, that is not to say that there cannot be any deformation, because eventually actual structure should have hinges forming in the beams, in the girders, not in the columns. So girder obviously cannot be infinitely rigid, and it is not, but it is only for the calculation, very quick and dirty estimate of calculation of lateral forces or the forces that we need to compute for design. We make use of this assumption, that is shear building model as we call it, and using this we go on with the analytical model to compute, to predict the response. So how do we stopped at this point last time. So did you arrange for the complete rearranging of this system and segregating the terms? Can you tell me?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So M double dot and U1 double dot.
M?
M1 U1 double dot.
M1 U1 double dot. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Plus C1 plus C2 U1.
Okay. Let me just first reproduce this equation there. So M1 U1 double dot. This is equal to minus K1 U1 minus UG minus C1 U1 dot minus UG dot and plus K2 U2 minus U1 . plus C2 U2 dot minus U1 dot, and then other equation is M2 U2 double dot is equal to minus K2 U2 minus U1 minus C2 U2 dot minus U1 dot. Okay. So I define, let us say U1 and U2, they are the total displacements of mass M1 and M2 respectively, right? So U1 displacement of mass M1, U2 is displacement of mass M2, right? Now if I define V1 as, or I would rather say V1 as U1 minus UG, this is displacement of mass M1 relative to the base. So base moves by UG, so whatever in addition to movement of the base is, that is the component of V1. So that is relative displacement of mass M1 with respect to the base, and similarly I can define V2 as U2 minus UG displacement of mass M2 relative to the base. So if I do that, then what is U2 minus U1? This is same as V2 minus V1. UG is common. I mean U1 is equal to V1 plus UG, U2 is equal to V2 plus UG. So UG will cancel out, and the difference of the displacement of mass M2 and mass M1 is same as difference of the relative displacements of mass M1 and M2 with respect to the base. So this will be exactly identical with V2 minus V1, this will be exactly identical with V2 dot minus V1 dot, and so on. So I can rearrange this as M M1 V1 double dot plus M1 UG double dot. So this is what U1 double dot is. U1 is equal to V1 plus UG, right? So let me just say this is equal to minus K1 V1 minus C1 V1 dot plus K2 V2 minus V1 plus C2 V2 dot minus V1 dot, and similarly M2 will be equal to V2 double dot plus UG double dot. This is equal to minus K2 V2 minus V1 minus C2 V2 dot minus V1 dot. So now I have transformed the equation from variables U1, U2 to another set of variables V1 and V2, where U1 and U2 were measured from a common frame of reference, and now V1 and V2 are measured with respect to the base motion, by how much different is the motion of masses from the motion of the base. So that is the only difference. As long as I know what is the base motion, I can find out the appropriate masses, appropriate mass movements. So let us rearrange these equations. Let us recollect. So collect all V terms. I mean, because this term is known. Ground acceleration is a known quantity. That is the excitation. We assume we know what is the time history that we need to analyze for. Actually, in design we don't know the future earthquake, but more on that later. Let us assume this is a known quantity, ground acceleration, and this is the unknown displacement response is the unknown quantity. So let us segregate known from the unknown and collect the terms together. So you have M1 V1 double dot plus C1 V1 dot minus C2 V2 dot minus V1 dot plus K1 V1 minus K2 V2 minus V1 is equal to minus M1 U double dot G, and similarly this second equation will be M2 V2 double dot plus C2 V2 dot minus V1 dot plus K2 V2 minus V1 is equal to minus M2 UG double dot. So this entire thing I can segregate as okay. Relative to the base. So this entire thing I can now write here. So I define, collect the terms, let's say V1 double dot, V2 double dot, something goes here. So all that we have terms relating to acceleration is M1 V1 double dot and M2 V2 double dot. So that's a diagonal matrix. Or let me just define this as, let me just say I define V as a vector V1 V2, and this equation I can collect the terms as M V double dot plus C V dot plus K V is equal to minus M. Now this is the equation. Now I can say, I can define what are these terms. M is a diagonal matrix, M1 0 0 M1 or 0 M2. C is a symmetric matrix. What is this? First row, first equation. So V1, multiplier of V1 will go in first row, first column, so that is C1. Multiplier of V2 will go in the second column, that is going to be minus C2. And this is going to be plus C2 as well. Multiplier of V1, V1 dot is C2 also multiplies with V1 dot. So this one would be C1 plus C2 minus C2. Then second equation, multiplier of V1 dot is going to be minus C2. Multiplier of V2 dot is going to be C2. And similarly for K, it will be similar system, K1 plus K2 minus K2 minus K2 K2. R, what is this value vector R, mysterious vector R that is not figuring anywhere here? Please note that this is M1 multiplied by UG double dot. This is the effective, you can call it effective force due to ground acceleration on the first floor, and this is the effective force on the second floor due to the ground acceleration, base acceleration. Now the problem is when I arrange this in matrix form, I need to adhere to the matrix rules of multiplication. So this has to be converted into a column vector. So these are all columns, so this also needs to be a column vector, isn't it? So this is 2 by 2, M is 2 by 2, this is 2 by 1, similarly, so the product is going to be 2 by 1. So a 2 by 1 vector has to be equal to another 2 by 1 vector. I cannot just equate it to a matrix, 2 by 2 matrix, which would be the case when I multiply mass with ground acceleration at any instant of time, right? So this is a construct which is called rigid body influence coefficient vector. It will be a vector or matrix depending on how many components of ground motion you take. If it is a single component excitation, then it will be a vector. If it is a you are taking into consideration all three orthogonal components of ground motion, then you need to look at a matrix R, which will, each column of which will correspond to individual component of ground motion. So what does this do? Rigid body influence coefficient vector is the movement of the structural degrees of freedom. I mean, in this case V1 and V2, by what amount V1 and V2 move for unit displacement. If I move the base by unity, then by what amount mass M1 will move and mass M2 will move if the body was to move as a rigid body without any deformation, elastic deformation whatsoever. So if the body was moved, I mean, it's like this. Please pay attention. If this is a tower, if this is a building, and there are different degrees of freedom at different points. So if the base moves by unity, you will see that all the points move by the same amount, right? All the points move by the same amount unity. So that is what the rigid body influence coefficient vector is. So for horizontal translation, all degrees of freedom move by the same amount. For other horizontal translation in the orthogonal direction, all degrees of freedom move by the same amount. But if I have to use a rotation, base rotation, then it will be like this, base rotation. Now each degree of freedom, each mass, I mean if the masses are lumped, floor masses are lumped at different points. Now motion of these floor masses is proportional to the lever arm story height, I mean the height from the base. So the rigid body influence coefficient vector in this case for the unit rotation of the base would be the height from the base of the mass multiplied by the unit rotation. So that would be the rigid body influence coefficient vector for the rotational degree of freedom of the base. So that is the significance of this rigid body influence coefficient vector or matrix, and that allows you to satisfy the matrix equations, matrix rules of operation. So eventually you end up with a system of sorry, I am using M V double dot plus C V dot plus K V is equal to minus M R U G double dot as a function of time t. So this is the governing differential equation. Structure wise it is same, you know this as this is for MDOF, multi degree of freedom systems. Equation will always remain same. Now only the order of these matrices will keep on changing. I mean this equation for 2 by 2 that we have 2 degree of freedom, what we have developed here, it mathematically it is no different from a very complex let's say millions of degrees of freedom, right? So mathematically it is of the same form and no difference whatsoever. So it has as much mathematical complexity this 2 degree of freedom system as a vibration of a body with millions of degrees of freedom would have, right? So if you can solve this, if you know how to solve this 2 by 2 system, you can very well solve that more complex system. So let us figure out how it is, how it looks like, how it compares with the single degree freedom system equation that we have. So mv double dot plus cv dot plus kv is equal to minus m ug double dot. So this is for SDOF system, right? So you can imagine, you can see the similarity. Instead of a scalar acceleration, you have a vector of accelerations of individual degrees of freedom. Instead of scalar velocity, you have a vector of velocities. Instead of scalar deformations, you have a vector of deformations at different degrees of freedom, right? Different motion of different points, mass points. And instead of a single value of stiffness, spring stiffness, you have a matrix of stiffness coefficients instead of single damping coefficient, you have a matrix of damping coefficients, and instead of single mass point, you have a series, a matrix of inertia properties. Now that can be different. It can be translational inertia, simple mass, or it can be rotational inertia, mass moment of inertia, depending on what degrees of freedom you are dealing with. So that would be a complete mass matrix, inertia matrix. We would refer to it as mass matrix just for simplicity, but more rigorously correct term would be inertia matrix, which will account for all inertia properties. It is which is mass in case of rectilinear motion, and it is mass moment of inertia in the case of rotational components. So now we have found out, this is of course, I can simplify this as V double dot plus twice zeta omega n V dot plus omega n squared V is equal to minus UG double dot. We know this equation will lead to V max as spectral displacement of with omega n and zeta. This is what we have already computed. The maximum response of this single degree freedom system equation, that will give us spectral displacement, and V dot max is what we call as spectral velocity for natural frequency omega n and damping zeta, and V plus UG double dot max of this is equal to spectral acceleration for omega n zeta, and which is also approximately equal to omega n squared SD, which is the SPA, pseudo spectral acceleration. Right, so this is pseudo spectral acceleration. This is of course spectral acceleration. This is spectral displacement, this is spectral velocity. That is the absolute maximum. I can actually say this is the maximum when we are computing maximum. This has to be maxima of the absolute quantities and maximum over time, disregarding the sign, whether it is maximum value in positive sense or maximum value in negative sense, we pick up the maximum of the two. And this is what is done, and this is what you have already solved this problem using Octave for any time history, using LSODE solver. Now LSODE solver, if you know how to use LSODE solver, all that you need to do is replace in Octave, replace M, C and K, which you have been using as constants, simple single scalar constants. Replace M, C and K with appropriate matrices M, C and K. And right hand side would also now become, instead of this M UG double dot, it will just become M matrix M multiplied by this vector R, which for shear building it is going to be a vector of ones, all ones. So for shear buildings, R is equal to 1, 1. It's a transpose. So for 2 degree of freedom system that we are dealing with, this is equal to 1, 1. Right? So, so when you do this, so M multiplied by R, what is M multiplied by R? It is simply equal to minus M1, M2. And that is what you multiply with UG double dot, and that gives you the governing equation. I mean M minus M1 UG and minus M2 UG in the as the right hand side vector for the two equations. Right? So this is what the governing differential equation is, and just feed it. Just in the normal case, as you converted this second order differential equation into 2 by 1 first order equivalent first order differential equation, this n by n equation, second order equation, would be converted into 2n by 2n equivalent first order equation, exactly in the similar fashion. And then just feed it to LS ODE solver and you get the response that you need. And subsequently you can, once you find the deformation, the force in the columns can be computed by using maximum displacement multiplied by the corresponding stiffness coefficient, and maximum force in the column can be computed. Seems simple enough?
Sir, this R vector rigid body influence coefficient matrix per vector.
Yeah.
Means for shear we are taking 1, 1. If shear wall we are taking 1, 1. If we consider a beam, then what should be, means I cannot get the complete picture of R.
See, there is a difference between shear building and shear wall. We are not talking about shear wall anywhere in so far. This particular model that we have transformed a two-storied building into a 2 degree of freedom model by ignoring, by neglecting the other deformations as several orders of magnitude, at least 2 orders of magnitude smaller than the lateral deformation. So effectively it makes corresponds to the assumption of columns being axially inextensible. There is no axial stretch in the column, there is no change in the length of the column as it deforms in the lateral direction. Obviously that is a violation of kinematic compatibility, but fine, we ignore that violation. Similarly, we assume that the 2 columns are in a floor move by the same amount, so that there is no axial deformation in the beams as well, right? So that actually means that the beams are axially rigid, and again that is a that's not possible practically, but the deformations are so small that it is perfectly fine. We can ignore that for the same, get the same order of deformation, because the lateral deformation in the columns are going to be much higher than the axial deformations of the beam, whatever the axial deformations are going to be, and we can ignore those differences. So when you do that, then you have a very interesting picture emerging. When I do this, when I do this kind of assumption, then very simple, because this is only 1 degree of freedom and there is only one force. Obviously there will be column forces like this, and there will be column forces like this, shear forces. So these columns are under constant shear. There is no other force. I mean, all the forces, M1, this one, the rate of change of momentum or whatever the equivalent force that you take, this one, M1 U double dot G, that is acting at this floor level, right? So the columns are under constant, there is no force exactly acting, there is no inertia here, so there is no force acting in this region. So the shear force in this entire story is constant. Similarly, shear force in this entire story is constant. So if I draw the shear force diagram for this beam, it will look like this. Not for beam, the column, for the building. So this is what going to be the shear force diagram for this column, and this is what we call as base shear, right? Right, and since the shear force is constant across the height of the floor, this particular building model is called shear building model, right? So this is not to be confused with shear wall. We are not talking about shear wall anywhere so far. Shear wall is an entirely different structural element, and we will of course consider the issues related to shear wall, but only after we have developed certain degree of familiarity with dynamic behavior and understand the basic moment resistant frame dynamics of basic moment resistant frame well enough to introduce the complications of shear wall. So did I answer your question, or did I confuse you even more?
Sir, I have understood what is shear building now. Means
Yes.
The confusion of that part is clear.
Right.
But in shear building, we are taking R vector is 1, 1.
Yes.
So just now about rigid body transformation means movement. That complete structure will move by same amount if we consider rigid body deformation. Then how are we taking 1, 1? This part means
Okay.
I am not able to understand.
Okay, let me draw the picture again. So instead of drawing the portal frame, let me just draw as a stick model, similar to the pencil that I held in my hand. So this is mass M2, this is mass M1, and this is the base which is moving by UG as a function of time t, ground motion, right? And this is U1, U2. Now if I move this motion by unity, so what will I get? This entire system has to move by as a rigid body. So if this displacement is unity, by what amount did the mass M1 move, and by what amount did the mass M2 move?
Same 1 minute.
M2 also moves by the same amount 1, and M1 also moves by the same amount 1, right? And this is what this 1 goes to this point, and this one goes to this second degree of freedom because of unit displacement of the base. So what is the motion of mass M1 because of unit motion of the base? that goes as the rigid body influence coefficient vector corresponding to degree of freedom of mass m1. What is the motion of mass m2 as the base moves by unity? That goes as the rigid body influence coefficient corresponding to mass m2. Right? So again, if this one moves by rotation, if there was a rotation theta, then motion of the mass m1 is going to be, if this is h1 and this is h2, so this displacement is going to be h1 theta and this displacement is going to be h2 theta. So these two will become the rigid body influence coefficient vectors for the base motion in the rotation direction. Right? So this is what, so is it clear now?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Okay. Any other question? Yes.
So this one is clear, sir. So one more, in last slide, we have written like total acceleration is equal to g plus g double dot maximum.
No, your voice is not clear. Can you please? Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, here in last slide we have written like v plus g double dot maximum is equals to s t.
Yes, this one, right? Okay, not V, it should be V double dot.
Okay.
Right? Obviously, you can't add apples to oranges. Only the similar quantities can be added. So displacement cannot be added to acceleration. Acceleration gets added only to acceleration quantity. Thank you. Thanks for pointing out. Okay. So